Hello, and welcome back to the Binge Society podcast, the podcast where nothing is in moderation. And as always, I'm Winston Brewington.
I am Danny the Voter Broner.
And I am Yemi Afalabi. You know what time it is. Get out there and vote, man.
That's right.
Mail in your ballots. Do what you got to do.
This is the time to vote. So we have a very special guest for this episode. So she is the co-host of Signal Boost, which airs Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. on Sirius XM channel 127. She's a speaker. She's a strategist. She's an organizer. She's a political contributor on CNN. She was named as one of Marie Claire's 50 most influential women. And I'm not sure what she's doing here with us, but I can only assume she is swelling with profound regret. So please welcome to the show, Jess McIntosh. Yes.
That's the best intro I've gotten ever. So I'm already feeling vindicated in my choices this evening.
Awesome.
Okay. Awesome. A little less regret. But hopefully it doesn't change. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be a long hour. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, Jess. And yeah, you may have gotten the hint from the guest that we have in her credentials and me being Danny Voter Bronner today. This is kind of a special election news, politics-oriented episode of Binge Society. So no binge of the week other than binging on knowledge and information. And we are going to talk about a lot of the things going on in our world. Not a lot of them are very good. In fact, I would say a grand majority of them are absolutely awful. We are going to be talking about the passing of RBG and its implications. We are going to be talking about the election. We are going to be talking about the aftermath of the Breonna Taylor indictment. I'll put that in large air quotes, and so much more. But before we get to all of the apocalyptic stuff, I'd like to keep things light because
let's check in maybe before we deep dive.
Well, we're gonna keep things light at first because it's like I always say, levity is the enemy of heavity. So
always do say that. I've heard you say that every day since I've known you. Levity is the enemy of heavity. What did you say? Heavity?
Of heavity. Yes. That's my mantra. It will be on my gravestone, which hopefully will be in a very long time. But in any case, Jess, how are you doing?
Joy is resistance is the other way that gets said, and it's right. It's important. Like you gotta keep fighting until you decide to give up. And we're 41 days out from an election, so we're certainly not at give up point right now. We're at like all systems go. And if that means you have to indulge in a couple of vices or watch a couple of shows that matter, or shut down for an hour or two, that's fine. You can even laugh at things that you're not supposed to laugh about. That's also fine. Whatever you need.
Good. Permission to be inappropriate, Yemi. You hear that? You're all clear to go.
Oh, I don't need permission for that. You know what time it is, man. I'm unhinged. I'm unlocked. No. Cool. How have you been in this new world, Jess? How have you been coping outside of politics? Like, how have you been coping with just being like quarantined and like inside in this pandemic?
I mean, I've more or less lost my mind. I'm assuming that's pretty standard at this point. Is anybody else like tripping a lot, or like like forgetting? So, like you walk into a room and then you're like, why am I here?
Yep. Well, there is a peyote factory in my backyard, but that's a whole other story. But I've definitely lost a certain degree of touch with reality, and you know, there's the odd pink elephant here and there. But like, Charlie's cool.
It's a flat circle thing. Like you tell me like a year ago, Bill de Blasio dropped out of the race, and I'm like, okay, that simultaneoly feels like a decade ago and a month ago. Like, Love is Blind was on this year.
Yes, and we binged it.
We did.
That's right.
We binged it. I feel like
one of the last in-person interviews I had on Signal Boost. I had the couple that everyone actually liked, Cameron, and I can't remember if that's his name or hers, but the interracial couple that actually seemed to genuinely like each other.
Yes.
Oh, the dude that was rapping.
Out of our last
in-person interviews. He went to her house and started.
Yeah, the rapper.
And the mother was like, "That's good, baby."
Well, I blocked that right out. I had just pushed that right down the memory.
Oh, it was cringeworthy. It was.
It was horrible.
He went to their house, met her mother, and he's like, "Yeah, love is blind, and people are like,
Watching that as a white person is even cringier. It's like I feel semi-responsible for that, so it's.
And there's definitely enough white guilt to go around.
No, you have no part of that, Jess. You're not a part of that. It's all right. You get the pass.
Well,
So,
thank you
Jess,
so much for
You
being
seem
on
like
the
a
show.
very Thank you for being on the show. You seem like a very cool person, but it's not so easy to get into the Binge Society. There's a little bit of a process that we go through here.
Just been.
A vetting process, if you will. So we're going to ask you some questions. My friend Winston here has a couple of questions for you to gauge your nerdy credentials. He will present you with a nerdy item or, thing in the media, and you will tell us whether or not you're into that thing on a scale of yay, nay, or maybe.
So you're telling me a bunch of men are going to make sure that I'm really a fan of the things I say I'm a fan of? This has never happened before.
Yes, we offer a special brand of mansplaining here. I call it dansplaining. It's my own special treat. You are very welcome.
I'm going under the binge bus.
You can blame it on. You can put it on me. My name rhymes with man, so you can throw it in there. We got dansplaining, dance spreading. Just throw it all my way. Anyway, Winston.
All right.
You would be so kind.
Yes. So here we go. These are the nerdy credentials. All right. So these are just some topics, some things to just see just how nerdy are you. So first we'll start with Game of Thrones. Are you a fan of Game of Thrones?
I watched the show. I watched every show. I started at the beginning and ended at the end. I've not read the books.
Okay.
Same.
That counts as a yay for me. That's a yay.
Okay.
That's a yay.
All right.
Definitely a yay.
Do I get quiz now, or was that the quiz?
No, that was part one. That was part one.
That was actually the entire show. We're going home. So,
Well, thanks for having me. It was great.
All right, here we go. Question number 2. Do you like Star Wars?
Very, very much.
Awesome.
It holds. We just binged the entirety of Star Wars in linear order here in quarantine. The only thing that we took out was the Ewok movies, because frankly, I've seen them all in the last 3 years, and you don't have to do that to yourself very often. So we started with episode 1. We did the entirety of Clone Wars. We went back for 2 and 3, then watched the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars because that's how you want to do it. Then was Solo, Rogue One, 4, 5, 6, all of Rebels, and then the final trilogy. And we're actually stopped halfway through the last one because I kind of don't want to end it. So.
Santa Maria.
Yeah.
You have very much outshone my own Star Wars credentials, which
and
I
me
profess
as
myself
well. I
to
don't
be
even
quite the nerd.
I don't even watch the Wars of the Stars.
In fact, we'll just kick Danny off the show and ask Jess to join.
Yeah, Danny, you're out of the
You
band,
would be
Danny.
absolutely right to do that.
Jess has
See
more
around.
credentials than you. You didn't see that coming, huh? You didn't see that coming.
Plot twist. I am really into. I do want to get. I just started watching Rebels actually recently, and I have to go through and finish Clone Wars.
I hadn't seen it before, which was what like we were like, well, we should obviously watch Rebels. We have nothing else to do. Let's do the thing. And then that turned into, well, why don't we do the thing where we watch the thing before the thing we actually want to see? And then that turned into, why don't we watch the whole damn universe? And oh yeah, Mandalorian. We put Mandalorian in there too. That trailer looks so good for season 3. I'm very.
I have not watched it. I want to go into that show as a newborn babe. I want to wipe off the amniotic fluid and watch that show. I don't need to see the trailer. I know it's going to be dope.
It's great.
But that's awesome. That's awesome. Winston, please continue.
All right, here we go. Number 3. Are you into Marvel / superhero movies or shows?
I live with someone who is very into those things. I enjoy those things, so I feel like that I know more than I ought to for my level of into it, but he watches Endgame all the time.
It's nerdiness by proxy.
It's one of the good ones.
But specific parts of it too. It's a lot.
I feel for you.
Sounds like a good man.
Yeah, he is a good man. So how about anime? Do you watch anime?
Oh, literally none. Like, I've seen Ghost in the Shell. I just saw Akira for the first time in my life, like a couple months ago. It was great. I was missing out, but I don't have this one.
It's awesome. Akira is awesome. I love that. And I'm
I'd
not
call that
a big
under
anime
Maybe.
person. Yeah. Okay, call that maybe.
Solid maybe.
Okay. How about stand-up comedy?
I mean, I love it when it's good, and I hate it when it's not, and it's more often not than good. So I watch it once someone else, like once all of my friends have been like, "Have you seen so and so special?" I'll be into it. But
Follow-up question: Who's the last?
It's a maybe not.
Follow-up question: Who's the last stand-up comic you've seen live?
Oh God, live.
Like in a place.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. It's so bad. It's Dave Coulier. Uncle. Full House. I was doing a Politico conference. It was terrible. We were so bored. We were in San Jose. I was with a coworker who I actually were buddies. So we were walking through downtown and we see this billboard that says Dave Coulier playing tonight. And we were like, wow. What else are we gonna do in San Jose? So we went, and his set was 20 minutes of Full House material. He was
he just doing cut it out? Did he just do that for 15 minutes? And people are like,
basically, yes.
And then another solid hour of him doing a chipmunk voice.
I need to get a catchphrase, guys. Just talk about it. I think that's gonna be my.
Oh,
my
I just got
talk
so
about
it. I can't believe I just admitted that.
That's great.
Fine, we might edit it out.
Nerd trivia. Full House still in effect. He's still touring with Cut It Out, with just playing rock paper scissors on stage. I don't know what he's doing. All right.
Yeah.
We got more questions, guys?
Yes, of course we do. Just a couple more. Next up, are you into video games or / board games?
No, I spent a lot of my childhood, like most women my age, watching boys play video games, which meant I was never very good at them. I will still enjoy watching people play video games, but no, that's a no for me.
Okay.
Follow-up question.
Yes.
Okay.
Puzzles.
I just got into this in quarantine.
It's so good, right?
So good.
People be sleeping on puzzles. They'll it's like an analog thing where you have to figure something out that's not digital, and there's a zenness to it. I love puzzles. More puzzles, people.
I had no idea.
10,000.
That it was going to light up that part of my brain, and doing something that has no purpose is so much fun. I had no idea.
That's how most of my time is spent.
Yeah.
I discovered that very quickly.
Puzzles are nerdy. I love puzzles. When I was in Stockholm, that's all I played, just in the woods, just they didn't have no internet, so just puzzles.
I have a Miyazaki puzzle ready to go. That's a little anime. That's
all right.
Story, but
Anime adjacent.
Yeah.
Tying it all together.
Nice. Do you like comic books? Have you ever read comic books?
No. I'm starting to, again, because of the partner I live with. Chris loves comic books, and I just read something. Oh God, it was such a weird one of his, and I genuinely liked it. And I picked up March after John Lewis died, because I hadn't actually, I own the 3-book set, but I hadn't ever read it. And it was so gorgeous. I think so put me as an interested in comic books, although I don't come to the party with cred.
Okay, fair enough. How about adult animation? Talking, the Rick and Mortys of the world and things like that on Adult Swim. Do you watch any of that?
Yeah. I used to watch more of it. Now that I have a morning show, I can't watch late night stuff. But if you go Aqua Teen Hunger Force Sea Lab years, 100%.
Yes, I do go back that far.
Classic.
I remember it fondly.
Space Coast to Coast.
And then the very last thing is are there any other nerdy credentials you feel that we should know about?
Oh, I have multiple nerdy tattoos.
Oh, really?
Like the kind of 80s kids movie Jim Henson style stuff. I have a Never Ending Story Orin tattooed on my chest.
That's so cool.
That was the first one I ever got. I have a big dark crystal, auras thing that's the planets moving around. There's a word for it, and it's weird, and I can't remember it now. But I have that.
Augur, planetary thingy thing. I think that's what it's called. That's really cool. Awesome. The show just got canceled, but anyway, let's move on before.
It won an Emmy and then it got canceled. Also, it won an Emmy for children's programming, which if you watch it is so much more horrifying than the movie.
Well, that's not for kids. That was giving me fever dreams. I was like, what kind of weird puppetry is this?
Yeah. Cool. I have to say, what do you think, guys? I
think she passes the test.
I think she's replacing you, Danny. I think we have already decided what
I think
has
she's
happened.
I want her to replace me. I don't feel fit.
You're great, but I think we have to ask Jess to replace you. I don't know, but anyway, that was.
I'm gonna go off in a helicopter and fly away like Richard Nixon or something. I don't know, off into the sunset. I don't feel fit to serve. I'm not the hero you need.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. I guess we'll sort of start to get into some of the more cringier stuff. Well, first, Jess, let's just talk about you and you as a pundit, as a radio show host. How do you maintain your sanity dealing with all these politics and how incredibly insane it is all the time, every week?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't. Like, it's not good for you to be this into it. I spend a lot of time on the radio show literally telling people that they do not have to pay that much attention, which is, I'm sure, something that our marketers love. But it's okay to take care of yourself. You don't have to watch the RNC. You don't have to watch the Trump press conferences. You don't have to watch his rallies. There's a point at which propaganda is so overt that the most important thing you can do is turn it off. And we're like way past that point. He doesn't make news. The things he say, he's not capable of doing. The things he tweets, he's not actually working on. Like, it's okay to check out a little bit. I can't do that. So I don't know what I do to, I do yoga. I try to like hang out with the dog because the dog's always in the present. Dog doesn't know it. Dog is only 1 year old and he thinks this year is like the tits. Like, he's all about it. So it's nice.
Like, I got a treat. I'm waiting for another one. This year is awesome.
Yeah.
I also can relate to that. I've taken up running 1 mile. And it's good. It definitely like centers you, like getting back to like, or at least for me, like doing something physical to like turn off like just this digital kind of wasteland of just information.
No, I totally need to. It's the only time that I'm not attached to a device is when I like have the mat down, and that's really about it. And you have to be able to unplug.
Yep.
Yes, you absolutely do. And I wish I had that advice when the RNC was actually taking place, because I just kept on finding myself, let me just see what these guys are saying. And 2 minutes later, I'm like, oh, I'm so triggered. Oh my God. Ben Carson talking about how we have so many abortions. What are you talking about? Yeah, it was rough.
I mean, that's their strategy. Like, their strategy is to piss you off and depress you and make you feel like you don't want to engage with any of it at all because it's all a dumpster fire. That's why they're always accusing Democrats of doing the things that they're doing. It's so that everybody goes like, oh, politicians are corrupt. Like, fuck this system. We're not going to play. And then that's what Republicans want, because when everybody is involved, we win. Progressives win. That's it. There are more of us. So
I'm so glad you say that. Yeah. Speaking of that idea you just brought up, and speaking of being triggered, there's probably no other statement in the universe that triggers me more than hearing the phrase both sides. Every time I hear both sides, my eyes glaze into the back of my head. I get a little upset. I turn into Akira at the end, basically. I start to swell and grow and overcome the entire universe. So let's talk about that idea. And I guess for me, I look at Republicans and they're like basically Disney villains. It's since you're a Dark Crystal fan, they're basically Skeksis. We did a review of the show, and that's an immediate connection I made. I was like, they're Skeksis. But I guess what I want to ask you is, where do you think that comes from, other than, like you say, like the Republican narrative? For me, I feel like a lot of people are saying it either from the Republican side, or I have progressive friends, uninformed and informed, who seem to say that it seems like a cop-out statement. It's like, if you haven't been paying that close attention, it's better than saying, well, I haven't been paying attention, so I have no fucking clue what's happening. And so they'll say, well, both sides.
Yeah.
So where do you think that sentiment comes from? Is there any validity to it? And how can you, if you're having an intelligent conversation, how can you debunk that idea without getting triggered and sometimes violent, as I do?
Okay. It comes from the media, like, full stop. There was a time sort of in the late 90s when we were starting to get into 24-hour broadcast or 24-hour cable news channels, and publications like Politico were starting. Like, we started to cover the politics of the thing instead of covering the thing. Because if you only have a newspaper once a day, you only have time for one story. And that story is Obamacare passed. But if you have the internet and you have the 24-hour news channels, then you have 1,000 stories a day, which means that Obamacare passes is the big one, but McConnell caves and Schumer presses and Pelosi says this and they wanted it to be this much, but then this person did this, that. Now you have all of these stories. And so they start to cover the horse race. They start to cover the process of it. And we lose sight of what the thing is. So you wind up with these ridiculous stories like, does caging babies help Cory Gardner, or like help Cory Gardner because Colorado will be mad at his opponent for supporting that, instead of talking about the fact that like we're caging children. Like, that is the only story. There is no, will that have political merit for the Republicans? That is so beside any point. But after about 20 years of this, you get to the point where all that's being covered is whether it is a politically valuable move, as opposed to like, what's the real impact of the move? Trump is so egregious that he's actually starting to pull this apart for the first time. Like, it's real hard to both sides right now. And hopefully you're not having a ton of like, I don't see the difference between the parties conversations with your friends anymore, because like we can't go outside and like see our families. It's really obvious what's going on here. So it started because we were feeding the news beast the same way that we do with like celebrity news, the same way we do with gossip, and that's not what politics is supposed to be. Substance politics is supposed to be its impact on real people, not the players. Certainly not like staffers. It's very odd that we cover White House staffers these days. It's not a game, and we cover it like it's a game. That's the problem.
Okay, yeah, I would also add that. And I wonder if you have seen this as well. Do you think it's the case that there are also people who are sort of retroactively holding certain politicians to a higher standard, one that doesn't really exist in reality? And like I've been seeing like shifts of hatred. There's all this like hatred. There was a ton of hatred for Hillary. There was a ton of hatred for Biden. A lot of anger over things like the 94 crime bill. Mm-hmm. The whole super predator incident. Like, I look at that and I think about just like the politics of the situation. I know my dad, who is black, there was a palpable fear of all the crime going on in the cities, and I feel like people don't recognize the actual context in which these sorts of things happened, and there's also like this hatred for Joe Biden, and even for Kamala Harris. I had on two different threads. On one group, I have like my friends are like, Kamala Harris, great pick. And another thread, I had friends saying, Kamala Harris, oh God, another establishment pick. I'm like, what am I dealing with here?
Like, if black women vice presidents are the establishment, like, sign me up. Like, that's ridiculous. You cannot call an unprecedented thing inevitable. Like, you can't call it boring. And the walls that she has had to knock down to get where she is, like, if you think the establishment was into Kamala Harris, like, I worked at Emily's List when she was first running, which elects pro-choice Democratic women. It's basically like it's the only super PAC for girls because we needed one. It's a little better now, but I was working there when Kamala Harris was first running, and they didn't want her for that Senate seat, the establishment. The establishment had a lot of guys in California that they were into. She had to be better than the establishment and outmaneuver them in order to get that seat. Like, so just put the establishment piece away entirely. It's, the hatred is what it is. I think a lot of it is manufactured online. This is like the crime bill stuff, the super predator stuff specifically was exactly what Russia was doing. Like, they accurately identified our racial fault lines within the Democratic Party. They're real. They're there. I'm not saying they're not, but they found them. They did exactly what they needed to do to make them even wider. So it's like it's our own problem. Like, it's our own chickens coming home to roost. Like, it's our fault that we can be exploited by an adversary. If we weren't so racist, that wouldn't have been available to them. But that's what happened with the super predator comment. The crime bill, everybody who was in office in the 90s, who is around today, from Bernie Sanders to Joe Biden, they have to answer for the crime bill. I believe that they went into it with okay intentions. Lots of black leaders supported it at the time. I was a kid. I can't really tell you what it was like. But clearly, the bill didn't do what they wanted it to do. It was one of the worst pieces of legislation that we've ever codified as the Democratic Party. And if you are able to come out and say, that was wrong, we will never make that mistake again, here is how I can ensure you that we never will, then, I think, I hope that we keep progressing, that our purity tests keep getting better. Like, I love the fact that, like, Obama was saying that he was evolving on gay marriage, and we were all like, well, yeah, that's great. That's so progressive. And no one could get away with that now. It's like your marriage equality. That's it. I want that to happen, but I don't want to throw everybody who wasn't always there over, because there's nobody who's where we're hoping to go right now. You're not going to be left with anybody. I want people to be able to, like, change their minds with new facts. I like that here, actually.
I think added context is also necessary, because I think a big missing piece of the story, and I wish politicians could be a bit transparent in this way. I think a big missing part of this story was just like the context of having to be tough on crime to win an election period in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I feel like I wish like Bill Clinton or these politicians that you mentioned could be like, look, man, Republicans were playing fucking dirty, and we had to do something to at least get a seat at the table. This was not who we really are. It did go poorly. And similarly for Obama, it's like, look, man, you think I could have won that election if I came out saying I was in for a gay marriage? We're trying to get Bush out of office. Let's be fucking adults. But they can't say that. But if you're paying close enough attention, you have that sort of, you can be kind of like Neo in the Matrix, like, ooh, I see what's happening here. I see the code.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I mean, you can watch them change. Like, they can say that they've evolved, but the other thing that, like, male politicians specifically never do is say that they were wrong. Like, they never, like, Joe Biden has a really hard time saying he's sorry. And he has a couple things that he should be sorry for. And he, like, is good about talking about them now, but there's that disconnect with the actual sorry of it all. That sort of doesn't happen. But, we're dealing with the other side is just, there's no intellectual honesty on the other side. They will exploit anything. They will use whatever they can. And what they're trying to do is tear down the democratic process we have in this country and make sure that it is a white male supremacist country for as long as it can be, despite the fact that there are more of us. And they know that they are already a political minority, and they're going to be a minority within their own country very soon. So they're not playing fair. So I want to spend like 20% of my energy on the divisions in the Democratic Party, because or the progressive movement, I should say. They're not even everybody calls themselves Democrats, because they're real, and we got to, like, fight with each other in order to become better. But it's got to be like 80% fighting Nazis.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yes. And I definitely count myself among that progressive, like, coalition, but I'm just looking pragmatically. I'm like, listen, we got to live to fight another day. I'm definitely, my ideology is more closely aligned with your AOCs, your Bernies, but you're trying to win a popularity contest for the whole fucking country between two people. So, you can expect that whatever candidate is being put out there is going to be a bit left of you, a bit right of you. They're not going to closely align with you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So from there, let's move on to, of course, the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Supreme Court Justice, last Friday. That really hit hard for a lot of people, for everyone. And I just want to get your thoughts, and first on her legacy as a Supreme Court Justice, and also, like, sort of what can we expect from this? We know that Mitt Romney said that he's going to vote for a Supreme Court justice. Basically, they have the votes to get this passed. So,
yeah, I can give you a bank shot of how they don't, if you want. It is not like...
Oh, please. The floor is yours.
Need 4 votes to get it.
Yes.
They have only 2 are saying no right now, Collins and Murkowski. They have the votes. However, if we're able to stall until post-election, so post-election but pre-inauguration, after November 3rd, 2 of the senators that are being elected on November 3rd are actually special elections to fill vacant seats. Like, one is the seat that was vacant when John McCain died in Arizona. The other one is Georgia. If both of those Democrats win, Mark Kelly in Arizona is looking like he's going to. Warnock in Georgia has a harder road, but it's definitely not impossible, and Georgia's real weird this year. If they both win, they can be seated the next day. that means that we have the votes. So there is one tiny, we have to have everything go right, but that's still hope.
This is like the, if I may channel your endgame knowledge, this is like the 1,065,000 to 1, whatever that scenario, where Iron Man, not to
is
spoil
what Doctor
anything.
Strange saw in his premonition when he was like.
Okay, so that's a little bit hopeful, but not to be sensationalist, but I do want to bring us down to earth. What is like the worst case outcome of this in the aftermath of RBG's
the worst
passing?
case outcome is that he appoints somebody specifically who will support any election contest that he brings, and then he loses, and then he brings an election contest, and then a Supreme Court that he has stacked 6-3 finds in his favor, and he becomes president for a second term, which I believe means we're done. Like, that's it for the American experiment. Like, it was a mixed bag. Everybody fend for yourselves.
Get yourself a white hood and a red cloak, like Handmaid style.
Yeah, I mean, that's
You better get a bag of rice.
You about to be called of Daniel.
Yeah.
But there's a middle road, like between the Moonshot and the Handmaid's Tale, which is, he appoints somebody, they confirm them. We win anyway because there are significantly more of us, and if we can all turn out this year, like, we will win. We just have to win by so much because this country is so stacked against democratic principles right now because Republicans have been working to do that. So you got the Electoral College, gerrymandering, voter suppression. Like, we got to win big enough. If we win by 6 points and they cheat by 7, we didn't win. So we have to win by more than they're cheating, and we don't know how much that is. So we just got to win by a ton. Luckily, there is a ton more of us than them. So that's sort of the plan. And then if we win, Biden can nominate a bunch more justices because 9 is actually not enshrined in the Constitution. You can have as many as you want.
Okay, yeah, really, it's a perfect segue into what we wanted to ask next, which is like, if that sort of middle scenario does come to pass, how realistic is that prospect, or what can be done to mitigate another conservative judge being installed? How does adding a new or multiple new justices, how does that happen? What would that look like? And what do you make of some of these other things being thrown out there, like eliminating the filibuster, making DC a state? How do those things happen, and what does that look like? And how does that put things on the right path?
By eliminating the filibuster. Like, that's the first thing that has to happen, because basically, we need to get back to democracy. If it stops democratic will from being what we govern on, then we need to get rid of it. DC statehood, Puerto Rico statehood, democratic will. American Samoa would go to the Republicans. It should still have statehood or not. We should not be having colonies. The filibuster is not a democratic process. I mean, we got to figure out something about the Senate. It is not a democratic process. The fact that, states with the population of Rhode Island have, the same kind of voting power that, states with millions and millions and millions of people do, that's not democracy. And we're either going to keep pretending to be a democracy, in which case we are weaker and we will fail, or we have to be an actual democracy, which means we have to get rid of stuff like the Electoral College. Like, each one is a little bit closer than people think, but it's a big row. Like, Biden is moving closer on it than I would have imagined a guy like that to do. But so essentially we eliminate the filibuster, and then it's just 50 votes plus 1 in the Senate to appoint more justices. That's 9 is arbitrary. It's changed 6 times in the course of history, the number of Supreme Court justices. And right now, if we have a 6-3 conservative court, 4 of those justices will have been appointed by 5 of those justices will have been appointed by presidents that lost the popular vote. This is not democracy.
Insane. Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. So I guess at this point we're still, we're early-ish, not really though, but how's your confidence level on the Democrats, sweeping, taking the Senate and the House, and of course winning the White House? So how are you feeling right now?
I mean, this is it's an impossible question. In 2018, Democrats got 10 million more votes nationwide. That was that's the biggest gap that we've ever seen. We're seeing 40% turnout in special congressional election races that usually have 9%. Like, in normal circumstances, I am very freaking confident. Also, Trump is super unpopular. And I know it doesn't look like that from like watching the media, but he is. Like, if you're an incumbent in the low 40s, you're basically toast. Like, he's bad. So I feel really good. And also, they just gutted the Voting Rights Act, and we don't know how much. I mean, they threw off 280,000 registered black voters in Wisconsin in 2016, and there is nothing to stop them from doing it again. Like, not even legally. There's nothing to stop them. In Georgia, if you have to get your registration in by a certain date, but there's no law that says Georgia has to file that registration in time to allow you to vote. It's not even illegal to do that. So we're up against all of the stuff like that. And I can't quantify how many points that is. So I can't tell you how confident I am. I am confident that if we don't get it right this time, we don't get a chance to get it right next time, because these things just get worse. It becomes harder. But I am confident that there are millions more who agree with us than them. But I'm not confident that that translates to a win unless we all have to do it. You have to be so annoying. You have to annoy all of your friends all of the time about voting. Like, it is not an option.
Oh, they have to vote, do they? Voting, what a novel idea. You're saying voting is important?
You gotta vote, people. You gotta get out there.
Early this year. You gotta vote early this year. Like, we've never had to tell people to vote early before, but because of pandemic, which is like another variable, you gotta vote as soon as you can, whether it's like, New York early day or early in-person voting starts October 24th. That's what I'm gonna do. You can vote by mail early, but the important thing is to vote early. That way they can count it in time for election. It's going to be
absolutely. This is a little bit off of the main path here, but I just think about the likes of people I know in New York, say California, in like fully blue states who are like, well, they closed the polls before I even cast my vote. It doesn't even matter. What's the argument to those sorts of people to go out and vote anyway?
We have to win by like 15 points. Like, that means that New York's votes actually count this year. Like, I'm not going to spend a ton of time trying to convince somebody in Brooklyn why to vote on a normal year. Like, I will spend hours with somebody in Florida. I don't even care. I'll let you ask me anything you want. Like, I'll buy you a drink, whatever. Let's talk. But this year, when we need to be able to say to the courts, to the press, like literally to the world, our country elected this guy by this many points. Like, he got, 10 million more, and that's not, Hillary got 3, and I'm constantly reminded how unpopular she was. Like, we need to be able to say to everybody, we elected Joe Biden with 8 million votes, and Donald Trump is trying to steal the White House. Like, help. Like, courts, world, like, this is happening to us. And if we don't build those numbers, then it's a lot harder to make that case. So that's why, like New York's votes matter more than they ever have before. And they have always mattered down ballot. Don't just stop at the top, vote all the way down. Especially if you're voting by mail, you can Google and vote at the same time. There's no shame in it.
That's a great point. I guess from there, let's talk a little bit about the first presidential debate that's taking place on Tuesday, September 29th. What do you think Joe Biden needs to do to be successful, I guess, against Trump? I mean, this is going to be two old white guys talking back and forth about whatever, like, I'll take you out back and I'll beat you up or whatever. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen, but like, what do you think Joe needs to do to like persuade people, if there are people who are still persuadable?
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody who's like, I know I'm going to vote, but I don't know whether I'm voting for Trump or Biden. Like, I don't think those people exist. But there are people who don't know whether or not they're going to be part of the process at all on both sides. So those are the people that I would hope he's looking. I hope he doesn't pull a take him behind the bleachers moment. That is like my least favorite Joe. I just like, I'm done with, I don't want like a kinder macho guy. I want no toxic masculinity in the White House. Not like a.
Can we just get an articulate man? Not like an off-road Joe. I'll dig you up back and
I thought he was
Absolutely.
great in his. I watched his CNN town hall because I work for CNN, and I thought he was excellent. Like, he was really warm. He was so detailed, which was weird. Like, I'm not used to like wonky Joe, but I dug it. So I'm hoping I see that show up. And I mean, God knows what Trump is going to do. He doesn't prep. He doesn't he just wings it. So I don't think he's going to be able to like. He can't stalk Joe around the stage like he did Hillary. Like, it's, you know.
Because then they'll take him back to the bleachers.
He brought women who accused her husband of, or like women her husband had affairs with, like, to the front row of the debate. Like, he can't do that to Joe. So, you know.
I mean,
hopefully not.
Yeah,
and I think that, like you say, Joe Biden has been doing a really good job recently. I think in the primaries, even for myself, I was watching some of the debates and I was like, "Come on, Joe, you can do better than this." But since things really swung in his favor against Bernie, and especially like around the time lockdown came around, where we saw like speeches in the aftermath of like your George Floyd's, the town hall, I saw that. Really, I think people forget how warm and folksy he is. And also the specificity with which he was speaking on the issues and his plans. That's what we're looking for, man. Do you think that he can keep this up? And then also, I guess, with regard to the debate coming up, how much faith do you have in Chris Wallace being fair and balanced?
Oh, none. Like, Chris Wallace works for Fox's propaganda arm. I have no idea why we decided that was where we were going to start this. And then they put the categories out today, and you can see, because race and violence in cities is one category. So, like, great objectivity there. Like, we're sure that those questions are going to be worthy of a presidential debate. So, yeah, no, I'm real disappointed in that. I stopped going on Fox years ago because it just hit, and like eventually, like, Chris Wallace was the only show I would go on. But even then, it would be like, the Republican I was on with would say something like really personally insulting, and then they would be like, "That's all we got," and they would cut my mic, and I'm like, "This is not like." I got to stop doing this. The thing about Biden, I think you're right. Like, he wasn't my favorite. I was an Elizabeth Warren voter. Bernie would have been my second. Kamala probably would have been my third. Like, he was down that list. But I think he's really, like, risen to meet the moment. Like, I don't think he was expecting a return to normalcy presidency. Like, he was expecting I'm just going to undo everything Donald Trump did and put things back the way it was. And, he didn't have to listen to the people who were like, actually, things have never been that good. We really need some help here. And then this happened. And now he's got a, FDR-sized presidency where he has, the platform he's running on has trillions of dollars in stimulus. Like, do you remember when everybody flipped out because Obama wanted $800 billion in 2008? We're talking about trillions. Like, this is a massive presidency, and I think, dude, bet the moment. He's also good at grieving, and we need that right now. Like, he gets compassion. He gets families that are hurting. Like, I talk to a lot of people. There is a lot of pain out there, and it's compounded by the fact that the people who are supposed to be keeping us safe, actively don't care about they're actively trying to make it worse. That takes an emotional toll. And I think he might, out of everybody in the primary in the beginning, I think for that specific thing, he might be the best.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And because we had spoken about this, I guess it was over a year ago in August, which is crazy. Just talking about who we thought might be the pick to run against Trump, and it turned out to be Joe Biden, not who I thought it was going to be as well. But I guess I just wanted to ask, for all the sort of more progressive people who backed Elizabeth Warren and backed Bernie Sanders, what would you tell them? Because I have a lot of friends. We all have a lot of friends who are they feel discouraged. Biden is not progressive, or Harris isn't progressive enough. What would you tell those voters to make sure that they come out and vote, and just let them know how important it is? Because a lot of them are just so they're done with politics, and it's sad to me because I think it's super important, and I think voting is super important. And I don't know what to tell them to like make them like realize like, no, you need to go out and vote because we need to make actual change. Like, don't just stop now. Like, we need to like keep doing this. Like, is there something you would tell them to get them to vote?
Yeah, and I would just add, I'm sorry to cut in, I would just add, is there anything also to like, just beyond, if you vote, you won't have to wear your handmaid outfit. Like, is there something more like beyond that people can get excited about rather than like, all right, this is just to save our lives?
Yeah, okay. I mean, that was going to be my answer, basically. It's like, do I have 5 minutes or do I have 5 seconds? Because if I have 5 minutes, like, I'll explain that Joe Biden is actually sort of a rare old dude politician in as much as he is willing to listen to his critics and change tact. He has done that before. Like, yeah, I'm really mad about the Anita Hill hearings. I'm angry that he never apologized correctly to her about that. But after feminists lit him on fire for it, he went back and made the violence against women. He championed that. Like, that is there because of him, and that bill is there because he listened to angry women about the Anita Hill hearings. Like, I think he's listening to, the criticism on the crime bill. Like, I think the racial justice platform that he has is really very strong. Like, he wound up taking a lot of his critics' ideas. The fact that he put AOC in charge of his energy policy alongside John Kerry. And like, that's not window dressing, that's real. So we have the most progressive party platform that we ever have. Joe Biden is running on it. I wouldn't have guessed it either, but that's what's happening. And he's building a cabinet of like all of our favorites. Like, he's taking Bernie Sanders' ideas. He took Elizabeth Warren's childcare economy, which is my favorite thing. Anybody who thinks that childcare is less important than deregulating banks is a misogynist. That's it. So you took that. Like,
I'll go with you. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. Absolutely. As I am a public school teacher, I definitely understand the value with that regard, at least.
Nice. And this is a guy, he was a deferential wingman to a younger black man for 8 years. There actually aren't a lot of old white guys who have like always been a senator, who would be willing and good at doing that. And he was great. So like, he is a little bit different, actually. Like, that's my 5-minute pitch. My 5-second pitch is, you're voting for a vaccine delivery system. Do you want one or not? That's it.
Amen. That's the for me, that's like the top and bottom of it. I was like, you don't need to have a debate. It's like, do you want to get out of this pandemic?
Right.
Do you want someone who will handle the pandemic better? He is better.
Even
actively be trying to kill you.
Right. Not actively trying to kill you. Even if we get a vaccine, it has to be kept at negative 70 degrees cold storage. We need millions of technicians to administer these vaccines. There's no jobs program for that now. We don't have nearly enough syringes. There's literally no means of getting a vaccine, even if a miracle one comes out tomorrow, which if it does, don't take it, don't believe that. There's no way to get it to us. So that's it. Like, do you want a vaccine delivery system or not?
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no such thing as the coronavirus. It's fake. It's fairy dust. It's going to evaporate in the air. I don't know what's happening. I am the most orange person in the world. It is fine.
Actually correct.
How did Trump get on our podcast, everybody?
I asked him to come on.
I have a question. Just switching gears here. How, in the lieu of a crazy summer and an ongoing crazy fall that seems to be amongst us with the Black Lives Matter movement and police reform, I'm a realist pessimist, or like I'm a realist pessimist. How are we, and in the lieu of like Brett Hankinson, one of the only officers facing charges in the death of Breonna Taylor on the charges of first-degree wanton endangerment, first-degree felony, which carries a max sentence of 5 years. So that's like a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, not even for endangering her.
Yeah, exactly.
Just for shooting into her neighbor's house, which he shot to her neighbor's house too. Put this guy away immediately.
Yeah, exactly. How?
That's where I crossed the line.
How close are we to like honest like police reform? I'll even scale it back. Police accountability in this country.
Yeah.
Despite the presidential like are we close? Are we like on the apex of like actually seeing real police reform, or more of these kind of like payouts and like slap on the wrists of law enforcement?
I do think we're closer than we ever have been. And we are, I mean, like Minneapolis voted to abolish their police department like that. Like they don't know what that means, but they haven't built it yet. But I do believe we will start to see, you know, laboratories that experiment with this. Like I think a lot of people, like myself included, I didn't need to be educated about the police brutality, but I had no idea how outsized the budgets were. Like I knew it was bad, but when you saw all of those graphs in your feed about the police budget being equal to roads and schools and public transportation all put together, it's like, whoa, well, yeah, defund the police. Like, that's insane. What are we doing? Why are we just shoveling everything at one of our worst systems? So the conversation has changed so dramatically from where we were before George Floyd's murder. It's hard not to see, and I'm not the person who gets to say this is a real moment or this is not. So I talk to a lot of Black leaders on my show, and I get to ask them because this isn't for me to feel. And everybody says yes. Everybody says it feels different, and it's because of the coalition that is starting to understand this as an issue. I also think the police are just shooting themselves in the foot everywhere. Like, you know, you try to do the not cops thing, and then the entire Rochester Police Department walks off because like one guy gets a slap on the wrist, and they're like, no, yeah, all cops, all of us, let every one of us watch. I mean, the way they've behaved is just so appalling, and you know, it's the way they behave to everybody, to, you know, the Portland moms, to like, they're just so wildly out of control. I think a lot of people who would have said, yes, massive police reform is needed, what happens to Black people in this country is unconscionable, we need training, we need this, we need that, would not have agreed with the statement that the presence of police increases violence. And I think a lot of white people saw that the presence of police increases violence this summer, who had not personally watched that happen. That changes things. You know, we're still in the middle of it, so it's really hard to say. Like, I wish I could be like, yeah, great initiatives are working their way through the system in X, Y, and Z. But I think it's about education, and that is happening on a scale that just hasn't before. I mean, but talk about Breonna Taylor. Like, we just got that non-indictment. Like, it's
exactly
on the same date that Emmett Till's murderers were let go after a jury. It's the same date, 45 years later. Like, this is just us, and it always has been. And if we don't reckon with that, then we continue to be weak. We will fail. Like, it's all part of the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to be conspiratorial, but you know, like you feel like in the age of information that there has to be someone, some little gnome somewhere that knows that. And it's like, hey, you can't do that. You can't do that. Let's do it tomorrow.
Hearing for tomorrow,
like,
right?
But yeah, same thing for the Tulsa rally as well.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know what you're doing. This is. What
he managed to do was educate a whole bunch of white people about the Tulsa massacre, because they don't teach that to us in schools. I find that out, you know, from reading history after I got out of college, and a lot of people found it out from Watchmen.
I found it out from Watchmen.
Us either. They don't teach us.
I'm Black.
In school. Like they teach us like, oh, Langston Hughes, MLK, Malcolm X, and the rest. You know.
Right.
B-sides. You're like, wait, what? You know, that's not really how it works.
My co-host Erlina says that you get taught Martin is good and Malcolm is bad and Rosa was tired, and that was it.
Yeah, that's it. That's all of history. Everybody, go home.
Just a little limerick. You get that one limerick, and that's it.
Yeah.
If I could just double back on police reform and the idea of defunding the police, what do you think of that as just like a political messaging system, as far as like getting the word out on the movement? I feel like it's terrible politics. It's great ideas, but terrible politics. What's your thought on that?
We don't all have to be politicians. Like, some of us can say the thing that's terrible politics. Like, if we're all yelling defund the police and Joe Biden says, I'm not for that, but here is a massive set of reforms that redistributes the budget to other places and provides different, you know, services for mental health emergencies, well, then he's defunded the police. Like, that's the thing. We can say defund the police, and I think more of us should be saying abolish the police. Like, a thing that I don't think the police should be abolished, actually. But the Overton window moves, and the right knows how to do this really, really well. Like, they will say some, you know, absolute batshittery, and then walk it back. So it's like, they'll start with jailing a woman who wants to get an abortion and then walk it back to a forced transvaginal ultrasound, and everyone's like, oh, that sounds more reasonable, we'll do that. Like, what? So I think when we all play pundit, like when we all get nervous about like that's what happened to Bernie and Elizabeth. I think Elizabeth especially, because this is an added layer for women, that like people didn't think that people would vote for her, so they didn't vote for her. Like, she was everybody's second choice. Like, if you asked people, the magic wand question, if you asked people if you could wave a magic wand and make someone president, she won in a landslide in the Democratic primary. Bernie came in second. All of the moderates were at the bottom. But we do this thing where we second guess each other about what the politics are. So I think, yes, yell defund the police. Also, don't yell at Joe Biden for not yelling defund the police. If we can let both things happen, I think we're okay.
Yeah, don't say the quiet part loud, basically. Right. And know that that's what your politicians have to do. They can't do that. You have to be a little bit savvy and be like, oh, I see what you're doing there, Joe. All right. I see what you did there, Obama, evolving on gay marriage. Like, you got to be a little bit savvy as a informed voter. Speaking of being informed, Yemi, you had a question about informing yourself.
Yeah, for the layman like me or my layman counterparts and cohorts, what are some political steps like everyone can take to be more active, like, and informed in their politics?
Well, I mean, the first thing to do is make sure you're registered. Like, literally, that is the first step. Second, what motivates you? Like, what's the issue that I'd ask people to get personal with it. Like, as long as you're voting and you're making sure all of your friends are voting, like that's your mandate for the next 41 days. Past that, like, what are the things that keep you awake at night? Like, what are the things happening in your family? Is it a civil rights issue? Is it a healthcare issue? And there's probably something local going on that you can easily get involved with that allows you to do something about the thing that you care about the most. So, use your networks, ask people what they're doing. There's a ton of fantastic resources out there, there's the Indivisibles of the world, where if you just want a list of all of the ways that you can like get involved, like go to indivisible.org. Vote.org has all your voter info. Stand Up America has all of your like how to save democracy, fight the filibuster, all that stuff we were talking about before. Supermajority, if you care about women and women's issues. There's a million things out there, but like pick your own path. Like read some long form journalism about an issue that you care about. It's if you know what you want to know about, then you're not just drinking from the fire hose. You're like actually seeking out information and becoming knowledgeable about a subject. And that just makes you feel better about engaging with it, and less like you're stuck reading this news because this news is what was served to you.
Yeah.
But is there something to be said about watching a CNN maybe? Or like I guess, like, I don't know. I feel like one of the things that when I started paying attention to politics, like in around 2008, I started watching your MSNBCs. I started reading different things like BBC, or I'd like evolved and like started reading The Guardian. One of the hard things to be like, what should I be reading that's not an echo chamber, or if even it is an echo chamber, how should I think about your MSNBCs critically, I guess, in order to not be encapsulated in such an echo chamber, I guess I want to say.
Make sure that nothing is your only source. If you're one of those people who has MSNBC on in the house all day, switch it up. I'm not saying go to Fox, but turn it off.
Epoch Times.
Something, like even CNN is sort of CNN is my background because they do the breaking news best. Like that's what I like about it, and I like that they have people like I'm only allowed to talk about issues that I know about, which is not true on all cable news networks. Some cable news networks let you on just as the guest for the A block in this hour, and you will talk about, feminism, or you will talk about North Korea. CNN, I actually know that the people know what they're talking about, so I like it. But make sure that nothing is your only source. Like if something is making you uncomfortable, look at how somebody else is reporting it, and use your social media feeds to break down the echo chamber. Like one of the most important things that I did on Twitter, which is it's a hell site, but like you can use it to learn about communities that you're not a part of. Like check the people that you follow. You know, if you don't know anything about how Americans with disability are handling COVID, follow a bunch of disability advocacy accounts, follow a bunch of disabled activists, listen to them for a while. Like, that's it. You don't have to engage, just listen to the conversations. Black Twitter is like the secret thing that I like would never tell other white people to do, but like, just follow all of Black Twitter. One, it's hilarious, and two, you're gonna learn so much. Like, you're gonna be a better person. Shut up, don't engage, don't ask for anything. Just enjoy the humor and the knowledge, and you know, if somebody puts up a GoFundMe, donate to it.
Yeah. Well, Jess,
Dopeness.
thank you so much for being on the show. We're gonna let you go. We know you have a lot to do. Where can our listeners find you on social media?
I am at Jess_MC on Twitter, and it's about the same. A couple more underscores on Instagram, but I'm pretty findable. Okay. And it's Signal Boost on Sirius Progress every morning at 7.
Yes, listen to Signal Boost,
everybody.
That's right, channel 127 on Sirius XM radio. It's a great show. She's brilliant. She's smart. She's hilarious. Just so happy to have you on the show, and let's pray for the best.
Let's pray for the best, and
vote.
Work like we're 10 points down. Be so irritating. Never shut up with your friends. Make everybody vote.
Go vote.
Amen. Amen. This is a good conversation. I feel good.
I've learned
to have had this conversation. Maybe not so much about the prospects for our future, but for now, I feel all right. That hurts for now.
Thanks, guys.
That's all we can ask for. These fleeting moments of joy. And that's
yes, Jess. Hopefully, we can have you in the studio with us once this COVID stuff is in the past, and we can chop it up and hopefully talk about how great things are and stuff.
I would love that. I will see you on the other side.
Yeah, see you on the other side.
And we're all
safe. Much love to you.
One way or the other.
One way or the other. We'll
Congratulations.
Thank you. Much love to you and Chris, and stay safe over there. And we'll see what happens this November 3rd and beyond, I guess. But
it was really great meeting you guys. This is going to be the most fun hour I have all day, so thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
That's a win in our book.
That's right. Bye. Can't wait to have you on the show again in the future.
Anytime. Bye, guys.
Ciao,
have a good night. Thank you.
Peace.